Okay, and good morning and welcome to my Professor on IoT course. As usual, as the beginning of the class, I'm supposed to explain about myself and also about the course itself. My name is Nyoman Bogi Karna, and you can call me Pak Bogi, and this is my Professor on IoT class in the 6th semester. And the course number is TTI 313I3. As you can see, the course number explain a lot of things. First one is the first number explain about the year. So this is the third year, so you are the third year students. And then the second number explain about the credits. Because this is the number is 3, then it is planned that Microsoft IT is 3 credit course. And because we have the online class for the rest of the semester, that means I'm supposed to give the online lecture for the maximum 30 minutes per credit. So that means we have 3 credits times 3 minutes. So we're going to have the online class at maximum for 90 minutes. It's not going to be more than 90 minutes. It will be less than 90 minutes. Depend on the discussion and also the course material delivery. Okay. First, why do we need to take this course? That's because the IoT right now is a very booming industry segment. As you can see in here, we still now at 2022, we are supposed to have 42 billion of IoT device installed, and we have to expect almost twice at the end of 2025. So, because it's a very promising career and promising industry and promising career also. So we expect to discuss about IoT in the point of view from the industry. So the output of this course will be to give you knowledge how to establish or how to implement the IoT. And I'm expecting you to understand what is IoT and how to implement it through this semester, and hopefully it can help you with your final thesis. Some people will call it undergraduate thesis. Okay. Now, if people say that the IoT is a very promising industry, but in which industry segment actually it's give a better and promising career. Now, let's say we have the heat map of the IoT opportunities. Blue or cool means, well, it's not a very big deal with IoT. So you can implement the IoT there, but you cannot expect that it will be boom there at that segment. But the red one, this one is the hottest. So we expect to have a lot of IoT implementation in this area. So this area, first is the government and education and social services for security and surveillance purpose. So we're going to expect a lot of CCTV going around in the smart city or even in the education service, like for example, in our campus, we have lots and lots of the CCTV for security and surveillance. And another hottest area is in the, let's say, industrial asset management. We have the hottest area in here, especially for the primary manufacturing. in manufacturing segment and also in high-tech production, they need to implement lots and lots of IoT device, especially for the industrial asset management aspect. Probably for the manufacturing, we have something like, maybe you heard something like Kanban theory. We have the, what do you call it? Sorry, I forgot the terminology in English, but in Indonesia you call it bahan berjalan. So we have the manufacture. So this is the first. This is the first machine, and then there will be a spare part in here, and then people are standing at the side of the road or the bahan berjalan, and then they will just put everything and assembly to become a more viable product. And then this is the machine number 2, and etc. And to make this one or this process to become more efficient or probably more secure, because we have to make sure that everyone in a secure position and secure place, never a safe working place, then we need the CCTV around here. In every aspect. And then we also need to make sure that the humidity and also the temperature inside the manufacturing area is within the specific set of, what do you call it, in a specific value. For example, it's supposed to be around 19 degrees of Celsius to 23 degrees of Celsius. That's for example. So we need to make sure that the temperature or humidity inside the manufacturing area is inside the within the set of value. For example, the temperature is supposed to be between 90 degree to 23 degree. So it become a little bit cold, but we are expecting the manufacturing assembly to become more efficient, and also the device and also the peripheral we're going to assembly along the line of production. Line of production. That's the terminology that I'm looking for. We need to make sure that the temperature within the manufacturing is within the set of this temperature. Then just to make sure also the humidity is between, let's say, 80 to 90. Not less than 80, because it becomes too dry, it will be harmful to the device. And also it's not going to be more than 90, because it's become too humid. It could be, well, creating some fungi or bacteria, etc. Okay, that's the reason why in manufacturing and also the high-tech production, they need to implement the IoT, especially for the industrial asset management. Like for example, in the line of production or even in the warehouse. If we want to store some, well, some products in the warehouse, to wait until it will be delivered to the store, we need to have a big warehouse, and we have to make sure that the temperature and also the humidity is between normal range. And remember, normal in this warehouse could be different with another normal in another place. So that's an example of the hottest area in IoT industry. So we are expecting to have a very big IoT implementation in this red area. Government education for security and surveillance, and also for the manufacturing industrial asset management. Okay, this is just an example. So why do we need to take this course? Because, well, everything will be connected through the internet. Like for example, we discuss this course through the internet. Now we have access to broadcast service like Netflix. So we can read everything or watch everything from the Netflix. That's because we have the internet. And to access the internet, we need the device. That's why do we need to have this course? Because everything will be connected through the internet and it starts with what you will learn in this course. In this case, is the microcontroller. Because the IoT device based on the microcontroller. Now, this course provides knowledge about how microprocessor works in a system in several designs. So we have 3 cells actually. The first one is you're going to have the knowledge to understand computer architecture and also the microprocessor. And then you're going to have the knowledge, understanding about basic programming skill of microcontroller. And in this course, we're going to use the Arduino as a case study. And then for the third CLO, you're supposed to have the knowledge to understand and implement IoT system. Okay, so first is the keyword is the how microprocessor works. That's the first keyword. They're going to be delivered probably around 4 classes or 4 to 5 classes like that. And then the next CLO will be the keyword is the basic programming skill, like how to create the program for our Arduino. And then the last one is now we're going to discuss about IoT. That's for the rest of the class after the mid exam. I believe this is from the class, the first class today until the 5th class. And then this is class number 6 until 7. And then 8, we're going to have the mid exam. And then 9 to 15. So we have 7 classes to discuss about IoT. And this is the code of conduct. You're allowed to going off cam, so that's why you're allowed to eat and drink. And then you are still allowed to use Bahasa Indonesia to ask the question if you're not, if you prefer using Bahasa Indonesia. And then this is the good point. It is not mandatory to attend this online class. Since the class will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. So after this class, I'm going to give you the link to my YouTube channel. So you can just watch the recorded session from the YouTube. Okay. Although, however, for your attendance, you must do, okay, I need to correct this one. For your attendance, you must do the not weekly assignment, but daily quiz. So we're going to have daily quizzes. Not every day, but the day when we're going to have the class. So because this one, our class is on Wednesday, so you're going to have to do the quiz for each class at the same day with the class. Because we have the class on Wednesday, so you must finish the quiz on the same day until midnight. So I'm going to change this one. Okay, so for your attendance, you must do the daily quiz at the same day of the class, no later than midnight in the LMS. Okay, so that's why after this, we're going to discuss about the LMS. Very serious about the LMS. Haven't, well, correct correct the bahasa in here, the language, still in bahasa Indonesia, but after this, I'm going to change the language in here to become English. Sorry for that. And then this is the reference. You can click the reference in here. This is the lecture notes, and I already uploaded to the Open Library. In here, you can just first you need to log in and then download the teaching material. It's a very extensive teaching material, but however, I only discuss the material from class 1 to class 5. So there is no IoT yet, or even microcontroller inside this teaching material. Okay, so I'm supposed to have the next teaching material this year. So hoping that next year we're going to have the teaching material for the IoT. Okay, that's for the lecture notes. And then if you want, you can just download the Intel 8088 datasheet, and also the datasheet for Advega 328P, and this is the Arduino link and the Firebase, because we are going to use the Firebase. Okay, so any questions so far? Just still the same thing like last year. Everything will be online. Starting from this semester, I'm going to have the daily quiz. And for the grade, we're going to have 40% from the project 1 or mid exam, and 40% from the final exam. And also we're going to have 20% from the daily quiz. So remember, the daily quiz will be counted towards your final grade. Okay. Now, about the teaching material, you can just download through here. It's from the my Google Drive. You can just download the teaching material from here. Just click File and then Download as PowerPoint. I'm giving you the PowerPoint because in some slides there are animation. So if I give you the PDF, then there will be no animation. So that's the reason why I'm going to give you the PowerPoint. Okay, any question about how we're going to go through the rest of the semester? If not, then let's move on to the teaching material. Microprocessor. We're going to discuss about microprocessor today. Okay, first is what is computer organization and what is computer architecture. It's just a theoretical perspective. Computer organization is to describe its unit functionality, like what is the function of mouse? How are we going to supposed to understand how the mouse works? And how about this? This is the pen, how it works. And then we have monitor. What's the functionality of monitor and how it works? That's the topic area of discussion in computer organization. However, in computer architecture, we discuss about the interconnection, not the functionality of each device, but the interconnection. If I press the if I press the enter button on my keyboard, what will happen? If I unplug the power to my laptop, what will happen? That's computer architecture. Discuss about the interconnection between units and how they work together, including the hardware and also the software. That's computer architecture. So in computer organization, we just discuss about how it works. But in computer sector, how can we integrate or how can we make these two devices can talk to each other? That's computer sector. Okay. Now, this is the PCXT motherboard. So back to 1980, 81, I believe. So we have for what, 50 years old? No, 40 years old. 1981. So 1981, and then today is 2022. Yes, 41 years old. Wow. So this motherboard is 41 years old to design. Sorry. So what is the story about this motherboard? At 1979 or 78, actually, at the, I believe, around the fourth quarter of 1978, Intel create their first commercial microprocessor, and they call it 8088. And this is the microprocessor. However, Intel understand that I cannot sell this microprocessor without some other devices, because 8088 cannot work without memory, cannot work without clock, and etc. So Intel make a contract with IBM. Hey, IBM, why don't we create a computing device where everyone can take it home. So they will become personalized computer. Because before that, computer can only be bought and installed in the campus and factory, because it's very big and very expensive. But in personal perspective, in individual perspective, they don't have to buy that big and that expensive computer. They just need something that can be used to write or to calculate or even playing a simple game. So Intel approached IBM and they make a contract. You make the computer, including the monitor and also the CPU case, and then the keyboard, and then we don't have mouse at the time, only keyboard, and then the case, and then the monitor. IBM, you build them, and then I'm going to build the heart of the computer, which is the motherboard. And then Intel create this motherboard, including their commercial microprocessor 8088. And they understand that to make it work, it's supposed to have or going to need memory. This is the memory. They call it RAM, random access memory. However, RAM can only store something if they have power. If we turn off the power, then everything is reset. Everything is gone within the RAM. So we need ROM. ROM is a memory also. However, even though I unplug the power, everything will be still there. So how are we supposed to use the ROM? It's not going to store some data, but it's going to store some programs. So what will happen if I turn on this computer? First, the microprocessor will read the content of the ROM. It will ask ROM what I'm supposed to do. You have the program. I will follow your program, and I will do it exactly as your content. And then the content of the ROM will be read by 8088. So the first thing to do for the 8088, based on the content of the ROM, is to check everything. Is everything okay? So the first thing to do for the 8088 is to check the RAM. First, they're going to check the RAM. What is the capacity of the RAM installed in my motherboard? They will count 0, 1, 2, 3 until they count N at the end of the RAM. Okay, we have 640 kilobyte. That's the maximum RAM can be installed in PC XT motherboard. After the 8088 make sure that the RAM works properly, that's because the 8088 does not just count the capacity of the RAM, but they're going to check. Can I write something to this cell memory? Oh, yes, I can. Can I read it again? Oh, yes, that's correct. How about this cell? I'm going to write it and read it. Okay, all set. Now the next cell. Write, read, write, read, write, read, write, read. And the 8088 will do all of them to all of the RAM until it reaches 640 kilobyte. After the 88, make sure that the RAM is okay. Then it will check the other device. Do we have 8255? Yes, there is. Do we have 8253? Yes, it's installed. How about 8259? Yes, it's installed. How about 8087? Sorry, I think we are missing the 8087. Okay, that's okay. It's not mandatory because 8087 is actually an optional coprocessor for numeric calculation. So Intel have to make sure that this PCXT computer is cheap enough to be bought by everyone. So everyone will have this PC, personalized computer. So that's why they think that not everyone will use the 8087. It's a very advanced processor. It will help you to calculate number in a high degree precision. For example, without the 8087, we can only calculate something like 1.5 times 2.3. But by using 8087, we can use calculation something like this: 1.50012371139, etc. times 3.999111999, etc. So that's what we call high precision. We can only do this by using 8087, but Intel understand that not everyone will going to use this coprocessor, the numeric coprocessor. So that's why the original default of the PCXD does not include the 8087. If someone want to do this something like high precision calculation, then you can just buy it from the Intel or any other store. And then Intel will think about how do we connect to the monitor and how do we connect to the keyboard. So they will make sure that, okay, I have the connection for the keyboard and I have the bus to connect to the monitor. At that time, we only have 8-bit ISA bus. And after ISA bus, we have the PCI, and then we have the PCI Express, and then we have the AGP for the video card, especially for the video card, etc. Okay, so this is the old PCXD motherboard. Design kinds of old, but it's still the same with the today's motherboard. Okay. How about we check some motherboard from the internet? Okay, where should we check? Maybe this one, or maybe this one. Okay, my internet is a little bit slow, so okay, this one. Wait. Okay, there it is. Wait. Okay. Okay, it's not a very high precision. Oh, that's enough. Okay, it's a motherboard produced by the Gigabyte. Okay, now this is the place for the microprocessor. And then this is the place for the memory, because we can upgrade the memory. Not in the old days, they install the memory whenever the first time we bought the computer. But in here we can, okay, today I just want to install 4 GB of RAM. And then after that, I'm going to play something, and then I'm experiencing about some lagging of my game, and then, okay, I think it's time to upgrade my memory. So I'll just put the memory and then install it to the expansion card. And then, well, this is the power supply. And then this is the bus extension. As you can see in here, it's called PCI Express. And in here is what? I'm not really sure about this one. Dynamic energy saver, no, not that one. Oh, PCI. So we have PCI in here. Okay, just zoom it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is PCI, and this is the blue one is PCI Express. And this is PCI extension for the PCI Express, etc. So, even though this one is a very old design, we can still use this layout design in the newest motherboard. Still have this place for the microprocessor, still have the place for the memory, still have the place for the bus extension card, and then we have the keyboard, and then yes, we have the USB right now, and then some other peripheral devices in here to replace the 8259, 8253, 8237, 8255. But basically they are just the same. It's just more compact and become much faster compared to this PCXD motherboard. Okay, so this is the how the personal computer initiate and change our life at the old days. Because before 1981, no one has the personal computer. But after that, everyone want to buy the personal computer. So Intel and IBM create the market and own the market. However, problem arise. Intel at that time can only manufacture around 1,000 chip or 1,000 motherboard per day, per month at that time. But the demand is very high. So Intel said, okay, I give up. I cannot manufacture more than 1,000 motherboard per month. So I think we're going to need some helps from other manufacturer. So after that, IBM create a contract with another manufacturer. You create the motherboard, you create the monitor, you create the keyboard, etc. But you have to remember, whenever you create the device, you need to stamp it as IBM PCXD compatible or PCXD compatible. So at that time, we have two types of machine. The first one is the PCXD from the IBM, and then the other one is PCXD compatible. That means it's not manufactured by IBM, it's from someone else. Even the microprocessor is not from Intel. So at that time, Intel released their design. This is how we create 8088. You can copy the design, and then you can manufacture 8088 by yourself. However, just like IBM said, you cannot use Intel logo in your processor. You have to use your own logo, but you need to give me some money. So at that time, we have 8088 by Intel, and then we also have the 8088 by AMD, and then we also have the 8088 from Fujitsu, etc. At that time, the market leader of manufacturing chips is from the United States and also from Japan. There is no Chinese version up till now. Now, after the Intel and IBM open the market to any other manufacturer, the war began. First is the war of transistor. Intel have to make sure that everything will comply to my design. So that's why after the 8088, Intel create a new version of microprocessor and they call it Intel 286. And how do they propose to sell this Intel 286? Intel said that if you use Intel 8088, that means you only work with 29,000 transistors. But using this new version of microprocessor, you're going to have 134,000 transistors. And what's the meaning of that? A much faster transistor, a much faster microprocessor. So at that time, Intel changed the paradigm that more transistor means better microprocessor. So that's why after 286, they released the Intel 386 and saying that now this one is much better microprocessor because it has 275,000 transistors. After that, they released the 486 at the end of 80s, and it says now we can reach more than 1 million transistors. So it's similar like how much? From 30,000 to 1.2 million. So it's like around 40 times faster. Is that right? 30, yes, 40 times faster compared to 8088. So that's the paradigm that will be changed by Intel. More transistor mean better microprocessor. And how do they still control the market? Is by still opening the design. Every time Intel release a new version of microprocessor, they still give it to public. So we have Intel 286, and also we have the AMD 286, and we also have the AMD 486, etc. So everyone can manufacture their own microprocessor according to Intel's design. So that means Intel explained to the customer, to the market, that we have the first grade microprocessor, which is manufactured by me, Intel, and also you can use a second class microprocessor, which is manufactured by AMD, Fujitsu, Cyrix, and also from the Texas Instrument, etc. But if you want to get a faster and more reliable microprocessor, come to me. So that's the first war of microprocessor, war on transistor. And after that, the war is not on the transistor. Why? That's because we have put so much transistor inside the microprocessor, it will become very hot. So we can add more transistor, but it will not give much more speed. Instead, it will give much more heat. So it become very hot. So that's why starting from Intel 586, or we call it Pentium, starting from that, Intel tried to change the paradigm to still own the market. How? Is by offering the feature. They explain to the customer, this Pentium processor packed with several new algorithms, so you can use it for encryption, decryption, or even encoding and decoding movies. So you can watch movie in MP3 or MP4 much faster. However, the problem is Intel bought that algorithm from several institutions. mostly from MIT and Stanford. So we'll spend a lot of money just to buy that algorithm to be implemented, so they will be able to be implemented inside this Pentium. This is the Pentium. And because the copyright is only copyrighted by the Intel, so starting from Pentium, Intel did not open the design. So AMD, Cyrix, Texas Instruments, Fujitsu, if you want to create your own new microprocessor, you have to design it by yourself. You cannot use Pentium design. So at that time, everyone buy Pentium because that's the only one in the market. Because there is no AMD Pentium, there is no Cyrix Pentium, because the design of Pentium is copyrighted by Intel. No one is allowed to copy the design. So after that, AMD almost going bankrupt. Texas Instruments run off from the manufacturing the microprocessor. Now they are just creating SoC, system on chip. And Cyrix almost bankrupt. And after that, Pentium will be the king. However, a little did they know that AMD plan to create their own design. And then they release something that they call AMD K5. However, because that's the first time AMD designed their own microprocessor, there are so much flaw in the design. So every time people use the AMD K5, yes, it's a lot cheaper than Pentium, but every time people use the AMD K5, it will definitely crash, hang. So everyone will think AMD K5 is a failure. AMD almost bankrupt at the time, and they almost they just manufacture some small devices, and then, however, AMD still want to own the market at the time, and then what did they do? They create a new version of AMD, and they call it AMD K6 with 3D Now. What is 3D Now? It's a capability inside the microprocessor to create a 3D design become much faster. And then AMD suddenly call some gamer manufacturer, please create a game that will work on the 3D Now engine. I'll give you the money now, and then every time I sell the AMD K6 with 3D Now, I'm going to bundle it with your game. So everyone will play your game. How about it? So all of the game manufacturer agree. Okay, I'm going to create the game using the 3D Now engine. And then after that, AMD released the K6 3D Now bundled with game. So at that time, if you want to buy AMD K6, you can get a free CDs with lots of game instead. And that game use the 3D Now engine. So when people try to play that game at the AMD 3D Now, They'll say, wow, it's very fast. The 3D engine is very good. It's very smooth. But every time they want to play that game on the Pentium microprocessor, it will become very, very slow. Why? Because the Pentium has no 3D now. Now, at that time, AMD win the market. Pentium does not want to, didn't want to lose to AMD. They released a new version of Pentium, and they call it Pentium MMX, Multimedia Extension. Yes, it's not compatible with 3D now, but you can play video, you can play music in MP3 or MP4 using the MMX. It will become much faster. That's Pentium MMX. So after that, we're going to have the war on features. AMD created now, Pentium create MMX, and also Cyrix comes with the very odd idea. Instead of creating a microprocessor, Cyrix create something like this in a box. But inside this box, they pack several devices into the box, like the CX586 plus RAM into, I believe it's 4 megabyte at the time, or yeah, 4 megabyte, and then plus all devices. So everything packed into one box and put it into the motherboard. So they create their own motherboard. Sorry. And what is the segment of that idea? The segment market of that idea is for the secretary. Secretary will never play game, and they are also not allowed to watch movie, even music. They're supposed to work in the office. So that's why Cyrix create a specially designed computer just for secretary. It's very small. At that time, the Pentium and also AMD has a very big case, in this case, but Cyrix can solve their system with only this size of case. So the PC only at this size. It's a very good breakthrough in how to define the market and how to control the market. Okay. So next is the war on cores. AMD and also the Intel understand that, well, we cannot fight on the feature now. How can we design a new version of microprocessor? How can we compete with Intel? How can we compete to another? And then after that, AMD and also the Intel will create the war on cores. So in one system in here, actually there are several microprocessors. It could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 8, or it could be 64. So we have 64 small microprocessor inside this microprocessor. Interesting. Microprocessor inside of microprocessor. But they call it cores. This is 2 core, this is 4 core, etc. And they try to change the paradigm in the market that more cores mean faster microprocessor. Although that's not going to happen. Because, for example, if you have 1 core, you can get something like what? Maybe perhaps 80K MIPS, million instructions per second. And then by 2 core, you cannot get twice the speed. You can only get like something like 120 kilometers. How about 4 cores? It's not going to be 200, but it's going to be 130. How about 8 core? It's going to be around 145. So it's not linear, the number of core and the speed. It's going to be something like this. Okay, this is for on course. So that's the history lesson about the microprocessor. Now we can discuss about microprocessor itself. Microprocessor is well, it's a very large scale integration, so everything is compressed and put it into one box. We usually design to process information, any information, and especially usually it is designed for multi-purpose or general purpose microprocessor. So it can work on everything. Whatever you want, you can use microprocessor, this microprocessor, to solve your problem. Okay. However, for the microprocessor to work, it needs support system, including the memory, input, and also output. This is the architecture of the computer system. The first combination is I have an input, like for example, the button, and then the state of the button, whether they are pressed or not pressed, will be sent to the microprocessor. That's the first architecture. And the second architecture is the microprocessor will send something like a signal to the output, so we can hear something through the speaker. And then combine all those two, we can have microprocessor that read the status of this button, and then if the button is pressed, then the speaker will turn on. But if the button is not pressed, then the speaker will off. And the fourth combination is by using memory. The state of the button will be read by microprocessor, and that state will be stored into the memory. Or we can read from the memory and then maybe hear something through the speaker, like for example, music. Or we can have the most complete architecture. We have input, we have output, and also we have memory. Now, examine about the arrow. The arrow from the first architecture start from the input to the microprocessor. That means the information coming from the input to the microprocessor. But on the second architecture, the information comes from microprocessor to the output. And the last one, the button will send information to microprocessor and the microprocessor send information to output. However, the memory is two-way communication. That means microprocessor can store something into the memory or read something from the memory. So they are working two-way communication, either from microprocessor to memory or from memory to microprocessor. Okay. This is what inside the microprocessor. This is for the 8088 CPU. Wait, I want to check the time first. 2:33. So, okay, we still have 30 minutes left because we're supposed to discuss this topic in 90 minutes maximum. Now, inside the microprocessor, what do we have? We have something that called control unit. This one basically is a finite state machine. Remember about finite state machine in Internet Digital? In Internet Digital, we discussed about what? First, discuss about the logic gates, and then after that, we do some calculation, and then after that, we discuss about finite state machine. Remember about we have state here, and then we have state here, and this state will change to here if the input is A, and this one will change to here if the input is A, and this one change to here, blah, 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 blah. This is diagram state as a base foundation to design the finite state machine. Now, the finite state machine is the foundation of control unit. So that's why control unit needs something that we call clock, because finite state machine works on clock. Something like this. Clock, go here. Clock, go here. Clock, go here, etc. That's finite state machine. And control unit is the enhancement of finite state machine, so it still needs clocks. So that's why every microprocessor needs clock. As we can see in here, this is the clock at pin number 19. So we can control the clock to control the speed of the microprocessor. Clock, 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 so they will become faster. But if we want to, okay, slow down, clock, 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 etc. Now, control unit can only control. It's not the one who works. So, control unit needs several other devices to be controlled. The first one is ALU. ALU stands for Arithmetic and Logic Unit. It's like a device within the microprocessor that will do the calculation. For example, I have A and B. Can you help me add these two numbers? Control unit will send those two numbers to the ALU. And then ALU will return, this is the result of A plus B. Okay, thank you. How about these two numbers? I want to multiply these two numbers, A and B. Please, could you please multiply these two numbers? Okay, ALU then multiply these two numbers and then return the result. Now, the problem is control unit can only send control. Like for example, please add, please multiply, please subtract, etc. They cannot hold the data. So the ALU will be confused. You said that I have to add something. What is something? What do you want me to add? So that's why we need something to store data. That means we need to have something that we call a register. It's actually a flip-flop, a data flip-flop, just like we discussed earlier in Internet Digital. So register will store the data. Now, control unit, every time they want to add something, first they have to prepare the data into the register, and then tell the ALU, please add these two numbers inside these two register. ALU, okay, I will add it. And where do you want me to put the result? Okay, the result will be stored in the third register. Okay, so ALU will get the data from register A and then register B, add together and put the result to register C, for example. So we have control unit, we have ALU, we have register. Now, we still need one more thing, which is the bus. Bus is just like a copper line, is to transmit the signal. For example, how the control unit can send instruction to ALU. Please add, please subtract. They need something to send that information to the ALU. And that something is the bus, the wire, the copper wire. So that's why we have bus in here as a media to transfer information. Okay, this is what inside the microprocessor. This is the explanation. ALU responsible for calculation, register responsible for storing data, and controller responsible to control the works by using the clock, and bus responsible for transferring signal, either control, data, and also the address. Okay, now how it works. So we have the control unit, we have the ALU, we also have the data register. Actually, we also have several type of register, because in previous slide, register is a memory for storing instruction, data, address, and also status. Now, to store the instruction, we have something that we call instruction register. This is the register specially designed to store instruction, the program, what the control unit need to do. And then register for data. This is register for data. And then we also have the address. This is the address. Address means the type of register will store address. Now, how it works. Okay, let me clear everything first in here. Now, first clock, the control unit will read the content of instruction pointer. Why? That's because the program or the instruction is stored in the memory. So, in which memory? It's a very big memory. We have 640,000 cells of memory. In which one? To identify which one of the cells stored the instruction, we need instruction pointer. Instruction pointer will give you the address of the instruction. So that's why control unit first will read the content of instruction pointer, and then it will understand, oh, the instruction is in the memory number 0. So because this is in the memory outside the microprocessor, remember microprocessor doesn't have memory, they only have register. Because the instruction is in the memory, which is outside the microprocessor, we need to retrieve that instruction and store it at the instruction register. So the next clock will be retrieve what is the content of memory 0 and store it at the instruction register. In this case, the data is C8. So this is the cycle of fetching the instruction, menjemput instruksi. And after that, the second cycle begins. Control unit need to understand what is the meaning of C8. I have C8 on my instruction register, but I don't understand what's the meaning of C8. To be able to understand what is the meaning of C8, control unit needs the instruction decoder. It's just like a table. It will send the C8 to the instruction decoder. Okay, instruction decoder, please decode this instruction and tell me what I'm supposed to do with this instruction. So control unit will tell the instruction register to send that C8 to instruction decoder, and then, so the meaning of C8 is to add register A with B and store the result to C. Okay, so this is the addition instruction. So the next cycle is to execute this instruction by sending A, B. Please prepare yourself. You're going to be fetched by ALU. ALU, please prepare. You need to add two numbers and then store the result into C. So that's why after the next cycle, the content of A and B will be delivered to ALU. And then ALU will store the result to C, the addition of A and B. Okay, this is how the microprocessor works. And how about after that? After that, control unit will read again the instruction pointer to check now what am I supposed to do. The instruction is in the memory, so I need to fetch the instruction first and then put it into the register, decode the instruction, and then execute that instruction. This is for example. Please add 3A, 62, etc. And then let's see, please accept this value. Now the next one is reading from memory 1. Now it's not C8 but 1A. What's the meaning of 1A? Is to move the content of A, the content of register A to register B. Okay, A. Now please move your content to B. So 3A as the content of A will be moved to B. Actually, it's just a copy, not moving. So based on the previous animation, we understand that every time a microprocessor runs an instruction, you're going to go 3 cycles. The first one is instruction fetch. Is where the microprocessor fetch the instruction from memory, and then instruction decode, where the microprocessor decode the instruction to understand what needs to be done. And then the last one is execution. Is where the microprocessor execute the instruction. Okay. Now, to make the 88 works, they will need something that we call minimum system. First is the clock generator. Is 8284. So this one has what? I'm sorry. This one has crystal to create a 15 megahertz of clock divided by 3, and then it will create something like 4.7 megahertz of clock to here. And then we have the reset button also to tell the microprocessor, I'm going to reset yourself, so please start all over again. And then we also need to use the 74LS373, is to divide or to split the address and also the data, because 8088 has a multiplex address and data. We're going to discuss about address and data later, maybe next week, but not today. Okay. This is the clock generator. Clock is a digital periodic and independent signal delivered to all units for synchronization. Clock is usually generated by using crystal with specific frequency. And then we have the power supply. Microprocessor like Intel 888 are using 0 volt and plus 5 volt DC through power regulator IC 7805. But some microprocessor use 3 voltage, 0, plus 5, and also negative 5 volt. Even some microprocessor use 4 voltage, minus 5, 0, plus 5, and also plus 12 volt. Okay. So why do some microprocessor needs only 2 volts, and why do some microprocessor use 3 volts and even 4 volts? That's depend on the design. If the microprocessor only works with regular transistor, then it will need only 0 and plus 5 volt. But if the microprocessor needs to control something like motor needs more power, then we need plus 12, positive 12 volt DC. So it depends on the application. Now, this is the first Intel design 4004. It was designed, I believe, in 1971. As we can see in here, you need to explain how many voltage does this microprocessor needs. Okay, as you can see in here, this is reset, this is test, this is the memory control. Okay, we have 14 here, V, and then we also have V in here. Okay, I think that's all. So how many voltage? I believe it will be, it will be 2. And how many address? Address. So let's try it out. This one has A in there. Okay, where is A in here? This is a memory control output. So we have 4. And how many data bus? This is data bus. So we have 4 also. And then are the other data bus multiplex? No. We have separate pins for address and also data. So no, it's not multiplex. They have different pin for address and also for data. Now, how about Intel 8080? Not 8088, but 8080. How many voltages? Okay, let's try it out. Okay, we have ground in here, and then we'll have the negative 5, and then we have what? Plus 5 volt, and then, well, we have plus 12 volt. Okay, so we have 4 voltages, minus 5, 0, which is ground, plus 5, and plus 12. How many data bus? Okay, let's try it out. This is data. D0, D1, D2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have what? 8 data bus. How many address bus? Okay, we have, wait, where is A? This is A11. This one. A0, A1, A2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10, addition 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 16 address bus because it starts from A0 to A15. So the total is 16. Now, are the address bus and data bus multiplex? No, they have separate and different pin. Okay, next. 8085. How many voltages? Okay, I found this one, VCC. And then what else? No. Okay, this one, VSS. And then what else? Okay, I think that's all. There's something else? No. No. But yes. So only 2 voltages. How many address bus? Okay, let's see. We have A15 here. And we also have A0 in here. So it will be 16. And how many data bus? 8. Start from D0 to D7. And are the data bus multiplex? Yes. Because like in here, there is address and also data. AD means A is address, D is data. So they are multiplexing address and also data. Now, how about Zilog Z80 CPU? Right. Okay, how many voltages? We have, okay, this one. Nope, this one. Only 2. How many address bus? This one, 16. How many data bus? This one is 8. Are they multiplex? Let's check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. 30 to 40. Nope. So, no multiplex. So, next one is, the last one is Motorola 16800. How many voltages? Okay, I have VSS here. What else? VCC here. Okay, what else? VSS here. Okay, it's the same. VSS, and then yeah, then that's all. So we have 2 voltages. How many address bus? Okay, I found A15. This is A0, so 16 address bus. How about data bus? Data bus is D0 to D7. We have 8 in here. So are the address bus and data bus multiplex? No. So based on our discussion, as we can see here, Intel 4004, the address bus is not multiplex. So it will be easier for us to read directly the address and data. Not like in 8088, we need to split the data and also the address to become a different bus, data and also address. However, the problem with 8004 is the data bus and address bus is only 4, while the rest of the memory right now is 8-bit. So it's a poor choice to use the Intel 4004 at this time. About 8080, yes, it's a very good choice. However, the problem is we need to create 4 voltages just to make it work. It's not easy to create the 4 voltages because it needs 4 different power regulator, like for example, like this one. So we need 7805, and we also need 7812 to create the 12 volt. So the problem is the voltages. How about 8085? The problem is a multiplex bus and data. So we need additional IC integrated circuit just to separate address with data. So that's why people tend to choose the Zilog because it only needs 2 voltages. Data bus is 8, and it's not multiplex between the address and data bus. Or even some people choose the Motorola because it's not multiplex. The voltage is only 2, and it's the same thing like Zilog, 2 16 8 no. 2, 16, 8 no. Okay, so any questions so far? So we almost reached the 90 minutes duration. Okay, if you have any question, you can just ask the question in the WhatsApp group. And I'm going to try to explore more about that question in the next week. Okay, remember, for your attendance, you need to do the quiz in the LMS. After this, I'm going to open the quiz. I'm going to inform you which quiz, because there are a lot of questions here. This is for the history of microprocessor aspect. And this is for the how the microprocessor works, and this is for the, we don't have number system here, and also the IC. So for the quiz for today, we're going to open which one? I think it's better to choose this one. How does microprocessor works? So I'm going to open this one, and then you can do it today, because the due date is today at midnight. And the duration is 10 minutes and no retake. Okay, so you only need one time to finish the quiz. It's a multiple choice, don't worry. So it will be counted towards your final grade. So please do it carefully, because it's counted towards your final score. Okay, thank you for coming, and I'll see you next week then.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Alvaro,
Thank you, sir.
Nico, Farisi, and Salsa. Okay.